Everybody, we are here with Kelly Murtagh, and she has a new film coming out on February 10th called Shapeless. And this one's really exciting, a lot of fun. Kelly, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
You know what? Um, I will be better after Starbucks. So
Hey, there you go. It's you got to look for those. You got to right. I mean, always in life, but especially now, you got to look for those simple little things.
those,
You know?
just those moments.
Yep.
So,
You got to cherish the moments.
well, can you talk to us about the film Shapeless? Tell us what it's about.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
You know,
I would
our
love to
pleasure.
tell you about Shapeless.
Do
Shapeless
it.
is the film that's based on my experience with living with bulimia.
Uh-huh.
I first had the idea for this film when I was in treatment for bulimia 12 years ago. And what had actually happened to me is what has happened to this character. I was a singer, and through the constant bulimia, I'd really affected my ability to sing just with my breath control. I wasn't
Mhm.
hitting notes I could hit, and it really had affected it. And I thought in that period of my life, like one day I want to like make a movie that's the real depiction of what this feels like to struggle with this complex, serious mental illness, and tell it in a way that's surreal. Tell it in a way that, but I didn't know how to begin, what I was doing, what was going on. I was a professional actress. I hadn't really written anything, and years went by, and you talk yourself out of it a lot, right? We do that. I don't know what I'm doing. What, all the things. And it really didn't come about until almost 5 years ago. I became a mother, and I have a beautiful daughter. And there was a period when she was about like 4 months old where I just remember looking at her, and you're like, how can I make this world better for you? how how can I protect you as best I can from potentially struggling with something like this? And my struggle was so serious for so long, and it was in secret for a long time because of the shame I carried. So for me, I really believe in this ability, in this idea of normalizing the conversation around mental health, eating disorders. And that was kind of my idea of like, okay, well, let's get this script, let's get something down. It's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be, the thing it's going to become, but just get something down. And that's what I originally sent to Samantha Aldana, the director, who I'd known from the New Orleans film community. And from there, thankfully, she saw something that was interesting, and we just started to develop and collaborate, and more people would kind of fit into the puzzle. And one little step at a time, here we are, somehow
I
miraculous.
Well, okay. First off, props to you and just thank you for normalizing the conversation on mental health and be it bulimia, depression, anything. Um, the first thing that needs to be done is it needs to be talked about and explored uh, and normalized, like you said. So thank you. But this is such a personal film. Um, let's talk about your character Ivy and who she is. You mentioned she's a singer, and what else is going on in her life in this movie?
Sure. Well, thank you for thanking me. I so appreciate that. I believe it. Yeah, I think it too. Let's just talk. I'm scared, but let's talk. I think that's some of the most powerful things you can say. You know. So Ivy, what Ivy represents to me, I think in earlier scripts, I almost was viewing it as not a documentary, but like, oh, well, that didn't actually happen to me, so I can't do this, write this. And something Samantha really freed up for me is saying, like, this isn't a documentary, this is fiction. Like, yes, you are the well, but like Ivy can be a whole new character. And that opened up a lot of sandboxes for me to play in, I think. And Ivy is so, you just want to help her. You just want to somehow be like, it's all in your head, but it's real at the same time. And how do we visually represent what an eating disorder feels like, and what we would always talk about in the developments with Samantha and the co-writer Bryce, who was incredible, was this feeling that you're constantly being watched, you're constantly judging yourself or feeling like someone's judging you, whether they are or not. That feeling of that's something, it's something almost outside of you that overtakes you when you're in that addictive cycle of the binge, purge, restrict thing. And so how can we visually represent like what those voices in your head are saying? And so that's where that visual language and the actual transformations really came from. So I think that Ivy represents this person that is so struggling and is sort of really lost in the depths of like that period of her life.
Mm-hmm. And what I found interesting and is that you wrote, but then you handed it over to Samantha Aldana. Why?
Oh, like why didn't I direct it?
Well, meaning, you know, why didn't you direct it, but why also her to direct this piece?
Great question. I always knew I didn't want to direct it. I always knew this was going to be, I wanted to act. I wanted to star in it, write it, produce it, however I can. But directing, I really felt like I wanted to collaborate with someone who could be a pair of fresh eyes. So where Samantha came on, I had really admired her work from the New Orleans film community, seen her work on the big screen. And I just always felt really drawn to the way she is, who she is as a person. She's incredible. And also as a director, her eye, the tangibility to her visuals and the worlds that she creates. So I really admired her. And that's about like as much as our, you know, experience was at that time, was just kind of, we would see each other and I just would really admire her. And anyway, when I finally wrote this thing, I just was like, I really want to send it to Samantha Aldana. Like it felt important to have her watch it or read it. And when she did sign on and through the development, it was so incredible to be a part of that immersive process because she had never had an eating disorder. I think she had people near her who had struggled. And she just dove in. She read books that I recommended and didn't recommend. She watched all the films she could. She really just kind of dove in to understand, like, how can I understand this? How can I best express this? And I think what it really created was, okay, here I am, the person that's it has dealt with this, is in it, who can say like, this is what it feels like. This is the authenticity to this. This is how we respect the people who are struggling with this as best as I can. And for her to be on the outside. So how do we translate that to people who don't? How can we do that visually with music, with whatever? And so it was a great back and forth because we had these different perspectives on it all.
Mm-hmm. And she was able, obviously, because she had directed before and you liked her work, it seemed like a good fit. I mean,
yes,
you know.
Yeah. And I think something too, I'll add is the safety, the
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, the honesty that like really went into this, was that there were a lot of vulnerable, uncomfortable conversations that I had to dig back and look into these periods of my life that I hadn't explored in a while. And I felt safe. I felt really supported. I felt like I wasn't being judged. It felt like kind, curious, respectful conversations. And I watched as the more vulnerable and the more honest I became, the less shame I felt. And that helped. And so I watched as it helped me. And so again, that's why I feel really passionate about the normalization of a conversation.
Mm-hmm. And I love that horror allows us to explore these things.
100,000 infinity percent.
You know.
I agree. These are complicated things we're talking about. Hard to talk about things, whether it's an eating disorder or addiction, depression, mental health, all the conversations surrounding just equality. And I think horror really can just give filmmakers this sandbox of opportunities and ways to somehow talk about the things that are hard to talk about.
Yeah, that's why I love it. So
likewise.
Now, were there any horror influences, any directors or particular films that really influenced Shapeless?
I will say in sort of maybe like leading into like even before I wrote it, I I've always loved Black Swan and Aronofsky and
Yes,
that
yes, yes.
entire experience.
Yeah.
A book that was one, like a work of fiction, was the Monster Calls, or I think it's A Monster Calls. I watched it, we watched, and Sam probably has even more. I know Jacob's Ladder was a big one for her. And then also we were just trying to see, like, I think, like, even I feel like I'm just blanking on all the things that I've watched and read. But
Okay.
any affected, like, horror films really is where it ended up, these elevated horror films in this way that are talking about bigger things. Like I'm thinking of Get Out. I love Get Out.
Oh
Of
my God, yeah.
too. I mean, that one's so well done, of course. And so watching these films that are really successful at creating that character, the monster, wherever it manifests, but that the monster that we want to talk about.
Yeah. And yeah, so I was picking up, Lynch and Cronenberg and all those great ones. So
Thank you. Funnily enough, I hadn't seen a Cronenberg film, and I don't think Sam had yet either.
oh
And
wow.
so it's just interesting how things manifest, with, like, when you just listen to your own voice. And I love that. I love those. That's incredible.
Yeah, The Fly. Check out The Fly. That's
And
a
The
good
Fly, yes, that has been recommended to us before as well.
wow.
And I need to watch it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
on the list.
it's rough. I loved it. Okay, well listen, I loved talking to you about Shapeless. Uh and but I also wanted to make sure you had a chance to talk about Soul Star Space and how that meshed with your film.
Yeah, Soul Star Space. Oh, thanks for that question. Right now it's just kind of this creative space that sometimes I put down for a minute and then I pick back up again. I have found a lot of healing and help by finding mindfulness and finding presence and finding meditation and nature. And so for me, I think one day I would love to become a podcast or something like that. But for me, it's a safe space to just heal, to breathe, to just stop for a second and say, I'm okay.
Hmm.
Because we don't do that a lot. Or in sending ourselves love. I think when I look at this experience of my healing and my recovery, the simplest way I can put it is when I was really struggling, I believed I didn't deserve my own love. And the path of healing has been breaking down all of those layers and stories to constantly go back and say, like, okay, I just deserve love for the way I am.
Hmm.
And I don't have to fix, control, or perform to be something else. That's easier said than done. And so I think what Soul Star Space for me is, like, I hope that is one day something that someone can find healing and help there too.
Is it a site, a project, a place? I mean,
Right now, it's just me taking pictures, just doing little short meditations and just little Insta stories of just light.
so it's on Insta.
Yeah, right now it's just on Instagram. It's like a website, but it's we'll see what it becomes.
Excellent.
I think from who I am as a person and what I hope to do as an artist and a person out in humanity is to somehow just shine a light and say, like, I don't know if this helps you, it helped me. And I know that this is really hard and I struggled a lot. And if I can be any source of a deep breath for someone or channel something that can help someone feel more understood, I'll try.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So yeah, so can you let everybody know how to find you online?
absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram at Kelly Murtagh. And then you can also follow Shapeless on Instagram at Shapeless the Film. And I would also recommend, if anyone is struggling with an eating disorder, check out the Project Heal on Instagram as well as their website, theprojectheal.org. They are the organization that we worked with Shapeless. They're at the end of our credits. And what they're doing is really cool because, recovery is hard. Getting treatment shouldn't be, but it is. And there's a lot of systemic healthcare and financial barriers that really keep people from being able to get the help that they need. So they are there breaking those things down and getting people access to treatment.
Nice. Well, again, horror is a good thing, people. And
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
Kelly, thank you so much for coming on, for talking to us about Shapeless and breaking down those barriers with a few scares. So
Ooh, that's good. I love that. Thanks, Norm.
yeah, you're welcome. Everybody, Shapeless comes out on Tubi on February 10th, and then in theaters.
February 10th theatrically, and
Oh, okay.
yes, February 10th theatrically, as well as on iTunes. And then it'll be streaming in May.
So everybody, you know where to find it. And Kelly, thank you again so much, and best of luck on this release.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, take care.